one thing that we have found over the last couple of years is that we need to be very sensitive to the idea that not everyone is called to foster, right? So we've heard a lot of this type of feedback, and I get that. So when I was a teenager, I was involved in everything that the church had to offer. We did praise band. Hey, can you come play? Yeah, we'll do that. You want to do drama? Sure, I'll do drama. You want to do youth group? Yeah. So I was plugged into every single thing that they had to offer, and there was only one thing that I really didn't like to do, that I never felt called to do, and that was youth choir. So has anybody ever heard me sing? Okay, Greg's in the back. So there's a reason you haven't heard me sing. So like, I know that I can't sing. I go join a youth choir as a teenager. Those people become very familiar with the idea that I can't sing. Obviously, if God wanted me to participate in youth choir, he would have given me the equipment necessary to be able to add value in that situation. So for a while, I would tempt myself into doing this, even though I didn't feel called, and then I would quit, and it was always an awkward thing. So I understand that just because something is good doesn't mean that we're called to it. I am going to ask you for a moment to visualize something with me, though. Play along. You can close your eyes if you need to. Imagine you're going for a walk in your neighborhood. Right? You see that a neighbor's house is on fire. Nobody else is on the street. It's just you. His house is on fire, and on one of the ground floor windows, there's a child sitting there. The window's open. The child is screaming for help. You're the only person there. They're within your reach. Even if you were to go call 911, you know that they wouldn't be there in time to help. But you have the ability to help. What do you do? What do you do in that situation? What do you do? Okay. So we get the kid. Okay. Any variance on that response? Are we in agreement that there's an obvious response to that sort of situation? Okay, what if there's flames kind of creeping up around the window, and maybe you'll burn your arms a little bit? Does that change your decision? No. We're willing to accept a little bit of the pain in order to do what is obviously right. Now, here's what I'm getting at. How much time do you have to spend praying about that decision in that moment? Like, none. Okay. How much time do we have to spend introspecting on whether or not we've been called to help in that situation? Yeah, like none. Okay. So we see that there's a very obvious, very clear relationship between an urgent situation in which we can help and taking action. Okay. And I've had this conversation with probably a few hundred people over the last couple of years, and it's kind of universally understood. When the situation is urgent, we take action. And it's just not my contrived example. It's not only my contrived example that can demonstrate this. So we can look to the Bible. We can look at the Good Samaritan. How much time did the Good Samaritan pray about whether or not he was supposed to help the injured man? How much time did the prodigal son's father spend contemplating on whether he should welcome his son back? Right? The Bible tells us to love our neighbor. So when we have an opportunity to love our neighbor, it might be redundant to meditate on whether or not we should love our neighbor. Right? It tells us to care for orphans and widows. So when we have an opportunity to care for orphans and widows, it might be a waste of our time to spend a lot of time in prayer about that. So if I'm going to leave you with one thing, it would be that foster care is urgent. The video showed these numbers. We emphasize these numbers everywhere we go. 1,700 foster children in our local area. Realize these are not statewide numbers. These are local numbers. This is from Tallahassee to Pensacola, okay, within a couple hours drive. 1,700 and only 600 foster homes to care for those. So imagine, I asked Sean earlier what the average attendance was on a Sunday morning. He said maybe like 111. So what that means is, if I'm going to guess there's 111 people, that's the only number right now. So now imagine that about 300 kids poured into this room and all needed a place to stay. That's the ratio. It's a big need. So what happens to these kids if there is this discrepancy? Where do these kids go? Do you know? Group homes. That's a thing. That's a thing. Today, that's a thing. We have the internet and we have group homes. We would have called them orphanages half a century ago. We don't like to say that because it sounds accurate. Sounds painful. Okay. So yeah, so either you see some crazy family with 7 kids or 5 kids. You very rarely see that foster parent with like 1 kid, right? You see I mean, sometimes you see it, but oftentimes you see them with a lot of kids, and then we have these group homes. Yeah, we have a bunch of them here in Tallahassee. We have them in Pensacola. We have them throughout the state, and we think of those as a great place. I'm going to take longer than 5 minutes. Is that okay? Yeah, we. There's like a therapeutic component to that. We want those group homes to be there to take care of kids that have special needs that group homes can provide. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about children without special needs are getting grouped into these arrangements. So I want you to know that the need is urgent. If you buy my story earlier about urgency prompting immediate and automatic action, then that means I am expecting you to get involved in something. What that means, the video suggested that there's a couple different ways you can get involved. There are full-time ways. I understand that there might be people that cannot get involved in full-time ways, like having a kid come into your house and live with you, and that's a very full-time thing. There are part-time things you can do. You can mentor, you can babysit, you can back rubs, all sorts of things. Guardian ad litem program is a part-time way to get involved. Okay, all sorts of great things you can do. But in any case, we would hope that you can get involved. What Go Foster is doing, just kind of a summary here, we do recruitment efforts. This would be an example of a recruitment effort. We do retention efforts, support services. So we know that when somebody becomes a foster parent, that at some point, maybe in the first week or 6 months, something crazy is going to happen. And I don't know exactly what that crazy thing is going to be, but I know that it's going to happen. And I know that when that happens, if they're not plugged into the right support structure, they're going to want to leave. Okay? They're going to say, oh, I thought I was called to this, but now some crazy things are happening. I should withdraw from the situation. And if they are plugged into the right support system, they don't leave, and that's really important. Okay? The other thing we do is we do research on recruitment and retention. So what are the best ways to recruit? What are the best ways to retain? That's what we're doing. Please let me know if you want to get involved in some way. I got a bunch of brochures out of the connection table out front. You can contact me at wcbolander@gofoster.org.